Hello everyone, my name is Sama. Welcome to my channel. I am in the throes of exam season, so I look like a hot mess, but I still wanted to come on here and chat with you guys, as I love to always. But yes, I do apologize for my ratty looks today. Also, okay, yesterday I went to visit my mom. She has breast cancer, and so because of her chemotherapy treatment, her immunity is very low. So every time I go to visit her, I have to shower and, I don't know, be clean, be a non-germy mess before I present myself to her in front of her. Anyways, so I went there yesterday to visit, and after showering, I was like, crap, I forgot my moisturizer because I have pretty dry skin. So I used this bottle of random lotion that was in the bathroom there, and it broke me out. So I look like a pubescent, acne-faced teenager. So sorry about that. Also, I wear the shirt all the time because it's very comfortable. But I wash it, obviously, because I'm not a stinky fool. But anyways, all that superficial fluff aside, I wanted to actually touch on how it feels to be a woman. I am very lucky that my parents, despite being Muslim, were obviously gave me enough freedom to make my own choices, think my own thoughts, and I don't know, dress how I wanted, cut my hair short. You know what I mean? They let me just express myself as a human being, as opposed to controlling me as a woman. However, a very big however, there's definitely a difference I find between my dad's cultural view, especially his more conservative thoughts about how a woman should be. I'm constantly disappointing him and making him angry with the things I say and my choices that I make for myself. My father's a very, very good person. He has a great heart, but he was raised in a Muslim household. His father, my grandfather, was an imam. He was a Muslim priest. And I can definitely see how that upbringing had an impact on how my dad treated me as a girl, especially. Once I hit puberty and I was obviously developing as a woman, thankfully, nothing perverse happened. Thank you God for my sanctity and was always protected. I never got into too much trouble with family anyways regarding my physical body. So I'm very grateful for that. My parents have been very respectful of me in that sense, because I know people go through horrible abuse when they're growing up and then in adulthood. So I'm very grateful that nothing like that happened, but it was always judgment statements, I could barely wear anything even remotely lower than this neckline, and my dad would, accuse me of being a hoe. And I have some very, very terrible moments in my teenage years and being a young adult once I hit 18, where I wasn't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to explore my sexuality, never mind discuss it, and it was very taboo. And any thought of dating, and I'm not talking about premarital sex, okay? I'm talking about straight up, I just want to hold this boy's hand, okay? Our lips don't even need to touch. I just, want to spend time with this male, and it was a huge problem in my household. And I was 18 years old at this time. I myself was incredibly naive. I had not done anything sexual at all because I was so young and inexperienced. So to me, holding hands and even saying that I have a boyfriend, that was peak romance. I didn't even explore anything further because I didn't want to. I wasn't there yet, that sort of thing. But I was still accused of all these things. And, oh, look at my hair that has fallen out of my head. It was bad. It was a bad time. And I remember, I used to, as we all do as children, we put our parents on a pedestal. And I remember, feeling so horrible. I felt clearly I'd failed my parents and dishonored them somehow, even though I didn't actually do anything in reality. I felt a real break in my relationship with my parents at that time because I chose to be honest with them. Okay, if you are South Asian at all, or if you have a brown skin like I do, it is very common for young people, young adults, to not divulge to their parents who they're dating, or if they're even in a relationship at all. Because There are so many consequences to being honest, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I chose to be honest. I chose to declare to my parents when, I had met someone and we were interested in dating each other. I told my parents and they flipped out. And so it was like just this horrible negative reinforcement for like why I shouldn't be honest with my parents. It set such a bad precedent. If you are parents and maybe you come from not necessarily an Eastern culture, but a more conservative culture, do not punish your children for being honest with you. If they have the guts to come to you and admit something to you or like confess something, even if you think it's the most vile, horrible thing they could have done, please do not punish them. Or if you're going to get mad, first thank them for their honesty and thank them that they trusted you enough to come tell you things. All of that aside, now I'm grown, now I'm married, everything's fine, I'm an old lady now. It's okay. But that experience really kind of showed me that as much as I thought my parents were modern, were secular, were open-minded and liberal, here they were like passing just some terrible judgments and punishments upon me just for growing up. I don't know. I felt like I was doing the most normal human thing to form relationships with people outside of my family. And that brings me to my point about being a woman in a Muslim household versus how I feel now following Christ. Like I said, I'm not bound to a hijab. Like, it wasn't very oppressive in that sense. I was allowed to get my driver's license. I voted in every election after turning 18. So in that sense, it's not like my parents like shut me out and I don't know. I was sheltered, but I was not restricted in my movements, if that makes sense. Except for that one period of time where I decided to date someone for the first time ever. And then, poo-poo hit the fanny-o. I feel like we can argue until we're blue in the face with people of other religions, specifically Islam, regarding how women are treated, based on scripture. I want to deviate from that. I just want to talk about my lived experience. So, like I mentioned, my dad was raised in a Muslim household. My grandfather was an imam. But I notice this all the time. My dad is very rude towards women, like literally. He will make rude comments about womanhood as an entirety, like as a collective. For example, once I was on holiday with my mom and her sister, so my aunt, and we were in a new location. We were in Lisbon, Portugal. We were on a little girls trip and it was new to us. Like I literally was like finding my way by just reading signposts and looking at maps and stuff. And, I got us to where we needed to go. And my dad had not joined us on that trip. He was back home. So I called him just to check on him and be like, hey, we're safe. We're finding our destinations just fine. And he was like, oh, it's really cool that you're able to find things, being a woman and all. Okay. Like, I was like, what? It was so confusing. And my dad has always done this. He's always been like, oh, women are so over emotional. Women are so hysterical. And just like making these like overarching statements. I don't know why he hates women in general. Like, I don't know. And it's not even hatred. Like, he was a good father to me. And it's not like he was like, ew, a girl? Like, get away from me, cooties. Like, he was fine around women. But it was just like this mentality of being like, women are inferior, they can't handle life as well as men. And I constantly saw that in the way he treated my mom, treated me. And I can't help but feel like he was raised by a woman as his mother, And he had 4 sisters. I assume they didn't do anything to hurt him, where he would like hold this resentment. But for some reason, he doesn't like women. And where do we learn all these fundamental like prejudices from? Our parents, right? So I can't help but feel that if his father was a literal Muslim priest, what values did he share with my dad that made him feel that women were lesser than or inferior? The only other real life comparison I guess I have is just like the Middle East versus the Western world. My parents chose to, so I am East Indian. Both my parents are East Indian, but I was born in the Middle East because my parents left India after marriage to find some, work that was a little more lucrative than back home. And so we ended up in the Middle East. And before we came to Canada, I was born there and I spent 5 years of my life in the Middle East. And my parents chose to leave the Middle East to come to Canada because they knew that their child, their only child, a girl, would not grow up with the same freedoms and opportunities as she would in the Western world, which is predominantly Christian, which is based on Christian values. That's how society was set up. And so, I mean, we see this all the time. Like, no one is ever, no one is in a underdeveloped, or I don't like calling them third world countries, because like the East is very technologically advanced in some ways and full of incredibly intelligent people. So I'm not saying that the countries there are inferior to Western countries. I'm just talking purely about like freedoms and rights and the ability to choose, right? The respect of free will for men and women in particular. My parents chose to come to Canada for that reason, which I am eternally grateful for. I am glad that they cared enough about their daughter's future to come here. But then it kind of raises the question, like, why do people choose to come to like Christian-based countries more than Muslim-run countries? You know what I mean? And I know, like, my mom always uses this excuse. She's always like, well, it's not Islam. It's because they're all patriarchal societies. But I know, but like Islam has been the dominant religion for enough years now that if Islam was as progressive as Muslims claim it is for women, then that would have changed by now, right? Am I crazy here? I don't know. So that's just like an overarching observation that I have made, right? People would rather settle down in Canada and the States because of the social, and Europe because of the social safety nets available and the right to continue worshiping whoever you want and speaking your language freely. And these are all, I feel like, I don't know, Christians are very chill, is what I'm trying to say about other religions. Like, obviously we preach the gospel, but we would never throw you in jail for believing something else, and that is the bedrock of our society, is based on these Christian values. And I feel that if you're going to defend Islam, you need to like walk the walk. Like, if I look at Islamic countries, they do not have the same rights and freedoms. And like, I don't know, maybe if I'm just like biased because I've grown up here and so now I'm like, rah rah the West. But like I said, the East is full of incredibly great, intelligent, creative, like very visionary minds, right? We see a lot of amazing inventions. I mean, even in the ancient world, we see a lot of like mathematics and art and culture. Like it's way better from Eastern countries. Like, their track record of just cultural richness is, in my opinion, much better from Eastern countries. But on the flip side, it's like when it comes to freedom and, I don't know, just human sanctity, I do not see that on that side of the world, especially in the Middle East, where Islam is the predominant religion. You just look and see what's happening in those countries, and then you look and see what's happening in like our countries, I guess, and you're like, there's a disparity, right? It's just not the same, and we all know that. I want to focus on one of my favorite parts of the Bible, which is that when Jesus rose from his tomb, the first people to witness it were women. Okay, Mark 16:9. Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. That's not the right verse. Sorry. Give me a second. I got this, you guys. I got this. Okay. Luke 24. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the woman took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. Essentially, these are angels declaring that Jesus has risen from his grave, has overcome death, and defeated sin altogether for the sake of mankind. And so this very first account is said to women. And to me, that is a great honor, especially in a time where a woman's testimony might be seen as like, imagine if you're a woman, you live in a patriarchal society, you see or find out that Jesus is no longer in his tomb, and then angels declare to you that he has risen, and then you go and try telling other people, like, they would think you're absolutely nuts. I don't, like, there's no other way to put it. Like, wouldn't they be like, okay, you crazy lady, like, stupid lady, go away, you're crazy. That is the honor that Jesus bestowed upon women. And so that is one of my favorite passages. We also see in Genesis, God creates Eve for Adam. He calls her the helper and uses the Hebrew word Ezer. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's the same word for helper that he uses to describe himself, like that God calls himself later on in the Bible multiple times. And so this also bestows some sense of honor that, okay, a woman is a helper, but she is a helper in the sense that she has the ability to help. And to be able to do that, you know, it's a characteristic that matches God, which I think is awesome. So in conclusion, I think we can maybe debate about the role of a woman within a household or within a family, and, you know, what she can contribute in sharing Christ with others, like, you know, what certain platforms she's allowed to have or not. We can discuss that, okay? That can be a lengthy discussion at another time. But in general, what I'm trying to say is I have found more freedom, and I am able to be myself more and to, like, you know, offer my strengths to the world more now that I'm here in a Christian-based society than I could have back where we came from when I was in a Muslim country. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that made sense. The fact that I can be grimy like this and I can still come on camera and talk to you guys means the world to me. I'm very grateful for your support. If you liked this video, please like. If you like to watch my videos in general, please subscribe, because I am a very itsy bitsy channel and I would love your help in growing. So I don't know, my perspective and my experience can reach other people. Thank you again. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.